Howdy, everybody. I may rechange the title of this. Currently, I think it says something story time, whatever, But we may call this story time after dark. But I've been watching a live stream tonight on a channel that had a very, very controversial topic in which it involved like human trafficking and stuff like that. It's very emotional. Um, So my brain's been churning today. Today's been a really bad day in my life. When I tell you really bad day in my life, it's like probably the worst day in my life. I'm trying to figure out life, but it when I'm listening, I always try and find a positive way to get out of the funk, But usually it's not about attitude. It's about this. It's about finances. So there's a big difference. I truly feel that anybody that's going through a funk in life due to financial issues, I feel your pain, brothers and sisters. Uh, but I had some other problems growing up, and I've shared that different times, different platforms, and so I wanted to talk to you about that today. Um, on this live stream tonight, I will mention that the the channel is at No Judgment Here with Tish Ross. So she does a live joint broadcast through her radio station and her um, personal channel, I do believe, which is the same title. I forget how all that works, but so the parents were on there talking about just like kind of like all kinds of crazy stuff, like human trafficking, just like. But at one point in the conversation, I'm not going to talk about that because that's where you need to go to view that type of content uh, on this topic because they're doing it very well. They're uh, showing you so many things you may have overlooked or whatever. But at one point in time, the mother mentioned a very influential teacher that she thought the teacher's name was Mrs. Wilson or something like that. So when I heard that, I'm watching that and it like, bam, hit me right in my heart because, man, I was like, a couple light bulbs went off in my head. And, I look back and like through my struggles in life, which seem to be consistent, I've always talked about the curse, but I always try and think about the positive things that have happened in my life. And so, what I'm going to try and do is share something positive or tell you a little story about one, two, maybe three positive people that were really, really impactful in my life. So, I went to Mount Pleasant High School in Wilmington, Delaware. I think I enrolled, or, went it, at that time in that high school, you had the freshmen, sophomore, juniors and seniors. So it was like a different um, time period. So if you look at the dates, like, I wasn't like dysfunctional. I didn't pass a class or, didn't get graduate to the next level, but it was kind of weird. But so I started in 77, but I graduated in 81. So because it was after the new year. But so, man, I don't even know where to go first. We had this nurse, really cool lady. Oh my gosh, she was such a sweet lady. Man, I feel so bad and guilty for not remembering her name. But she drove a blue Corvette or something like that. She was a really nice lady, and I would always stop in and talk to her because she was such a like just a cool individual. She was out of that. I'm probably going to cry because my heart's in a bad place right now. But man, I wish I could remember her name because she deserves a tribute. But I could always go into her and just say hello, Mrs. Jones, or I know it wasn't Jones, but it was whatever it was, and just talk to her. I was not this savvy in high school, but looking back in retrospect, which is probably, you know, good that a lot of the teachers did this. Teachers, administrators would probably communicate to each other about concerns of certain students. But that one nurse, she was so cool. I could go in there anytime and sit down with her and just talk to her about life. It was the craziest thing. I felt like I had this special privilege just to talk to her. That at the end of the our dialogue, she would always just write me a note. Please, Gary was in the nurse's office. I was looking after him. Whatever. She did that, right? So now I'm thinking to myself, looking back now, like, man, I really appreciated it then. Hold on one second. I probably shouldn't do this live or on a recorded video. This is how broken up I am today. But man, when you have special people in your life like that are basically total strangers that want to give their heart to you and look after you. It's way above education. I call that it's looking after humanity. I'm looking back in retrospect, like all these things that have been running through my brain lately. Like, oh my gosh, how could I forget that kind nurse? How can I not give her an acknowledgement? I know, I know somewhere. I think it's my sophomore year. I was always on student council, uh, presidential, whatever you call that. But we did a photo op next to her Corvette. Really cool lady. Really cool lady. It was so funny because I never felt like I was going to talk to a nurse. I felt like I was going to talk to a friend who would listen and try and understand about the growings up of a dysfunctional family. And like now I'm looking back and I'm like, the best thing she ever did for me at that time was just listen. She never like told, the best of my recollection, She never told me to like do this or do that, but she always tried to encourage me. And then I kid you not, like I've told you, and I'm going to tell you in going forward. Holy crap. I'm sorry I'm doing this. But man, life has just been turned upside down today. But this is an important message I want to share. Because when I saw that video tonight, I was like, man, some people really need to be acknowledged. So oh man, I'm so mad. I cannot remember her name. She had blonde hair, short hair, really nice. I'm sorry for all the sniffles. I don't have any paper towels out here. I just have this towel that usually blocks the light during the daytime. So, and there's been some really good. I guess the point of my message here tonight, as like I'm kind of getting distracted. If someone says squirrel, and I'm off. But when I was listening to the message tonight about a school official being a positive role model, man, that really hit my heart. So I want to talk about at least another person or couple, if I stay on point without losing my crap. But another guy that was really, really cool. And this was, I've in the past, I've talked about Julio, who was a state trooper, talked about Coach David Needs. And man, do I owe a big apology to Assistant Vice Principal Mr. Huffman. Mr. Huffman was like, he was another cool dude. And for whatever reason, like, you got to love people like that. That you're not just a kid in school and just go off to your class, whatever. Well, when they listen to your concerns and your problems, your dysfunctional family, worries and stuff like that. And Mr. Huffman, I kid you not, I crap you not. I could go in there any time of day and just, hey, Mr. Huffman, we were never on, like, he would call me, Gary, obviously. I never called, I always called him Mr. Huffman because I thought that was the respectful thing to do. He never told me to do otherwise, so that's what I did. But he was a funny dude, man. He was always very positive and uplifting, and everything. When I left his office, every time I left his office, I might have missed an exam talking to him for like an hour about life. But he always wrote me a note. Always wrote me a note. I needed to talk to Gary. Everything's fine. Just, let him take the test at a later time or whatever it was. And, man, people like that. I don't know how it is. It's been a long time since I've been in high school. But people are so regimented in today's society that you have to be so structured. But when you quit being a human being to try and help, the youth, and just listen to them. Some of the best things you can do for people is just listen to them. It's not always about dictating to them. It's about listening to the children, the youth. And there was another guy who was really, this guy was like, he was another hero of mine. We had a guy that was a very, very famous football coach at Mount Pleasant High School. His name was Dave Lipinski. And then he got out of coaching football, but he was still a teacher there at Mount Pleasant High School. And then he eventually went on to, I believe he coached Widener University. And he went, as he did in high school, he excelled very well. I know he won some like Division III, titles or something like that. Best of my recollection. But this guy, that guy. You talk about somebody with composure and very poised and always looking out for people. That's another dude. I'm sorry for it. I just don't have any napkins out here or tissue paper. But so my message is tonight is like, man, it's like if you, your friends, any of your relatives, or cousins or whatever it is, if you have anybody affiliated with any type of school system, please never forget the human aspect of just general humanity. Like all that other crap's going. I know like so much stuff is so structured now in today's society, but at that time, like Mr. Huffman, the nurse. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad at myself. I can't remember her name. Coach Dave Lipinski. I had Coach Needs in my life. There's so many people at the high school level that really, really do care about individuals. And it's so weird when you're. I'm going to tell you a story about Mr. Huffman. This is crazy. He had so much belief and confidence in me. I forget what year it was. I was 16, 17 years old. And he says, hey, I got a job for you. And it was like in the middle of the school day. This is crazy as could be. He says, can you drive Mr. LaPree's car? Mr. LaPree was a teacher. And he says, can you take it to downtown Wilmington it was like an automotive, like body repair shop. I don't know. There was something he needed to have done. And it wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't like bumpers were falling off or anything. But so I'm like, yeah, no problem. When I get in and realize it's like a clutch. And then where we needed to go, it was like, I'm pretty much a new driver. And it was all these like steep hills. So I'm trying to figure out the clutch configuration and not rear end anybody and still go forward. So I do finally get it there. And I forget how we had obviously had a follow vehicle, but it was kind of crazy. Like Mr. Hoffman was really funny. And I remember I talked to Mr. LaPree either on the way there or on the way back, but he was another guy. I never really developed a tight bond, but I think he appreciated that I was out there, trying to do something positive because of Mr. Huffman. But Mr. Huffman was a really cool dude. So I'm going to tell you another one. This is so ironic with this similarity in name sounds, but we had a guy who was Mr. Hoffman, I think was his name, or Hugh Hoffman, something like that now. But I can see his face vividly. But he was a really cool dude. He was like the assistant general manager, or assistant athletic director, is what I'm trying to say. And he ended up selling me. He and I talked a lot because he knew I liked to fish, and he sold me a John boat for like $50 or $60, and but he was real, cool and up front, and I would always tell him like, hey, Mr. Hoffman, I like just caught this weekend, and because I did a lot of repairs to the boat, and it floated, that's all you need, if you can't do it from the bank, you just got to float, and what's that old saying, float hopes or whatever. But so anyway, my message, you're probably going to see this at 0900 on March 28th, and man, it's like there's some really good people out there in the school system, and like a lot of times they're getting bashed. There's so many different, law enforcement's getting bashed, all these different genres are getting bashed. But man, people really need to step back and think deep in their heart. Have I ever been influenced by an administrator, a law enforcement officer, a fireman, a paramedic, like just a politician? Has a politician ever happened? Like I don't want to get political, but like I mean, there are like so many different avenues. Has it been like anybody in the church community that has helped me? That's been really a good influence. So my message to I'm recording this tonight, obviously, and my message is, man, it's like, man, I'm brokenhearted for many reasons today. But when I heard that live broadcast, when the mother who lost her daughter to human trafficking and kept talking about her favorite teacher, not kept talking, but mentioned her favorite teacher. That's when I kind of lost it, because it made me realize, like, I haven't really like acknowledged or truly attributed these influences of part of my upbringing is what I almost said up. I was trying to do a snakelet, grooming and upbringing, and Mr. Huffman was really special. And there's like all those other people involved, the nurse, and I want to say her name was Mrs. Johnson or something like that, but I truly do not remember. But she was such a sweet, kind lady. And there's, I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but those are some vivid memories. But Mr. Huffman, there was Mr. Huffman and Hoffman, or I think one was, in the athletic department, one was the assistant vice principal. But man, there's like, you talk about badass individuals in life, man. It's like when the thing I tried to mention on earlier, I know this is kind of sounding like more like a rambling right now, because it hasn't affected your life, but these people affected my life. So when you're face to face with another human being, and they basically have a title and a role that they're supposed to fulfill as far as academics or something like that, and they just pretty much just crumple that up and throw it in the trash, and now they just take on a humanitarian role. Man, that's special. That's big. So that's how I'm going to close this recording tonight, which will air tomorrow morning. So special people that really, really, really understand. I mean, it's more than just saying hello, how are you today? That's always nice too. Don't get me wrong, but people that go the extra mile to make sure people are okay, and that's lacking in today's society, from what I've seen. I hope you people prove me wrong, give me examples, but this really needs to improve in our society, based on my opinion. I'm not trying to bash society or whatever, but when I heard that tonight, I instantly was crying, as you can probably tell or observe. But if you have the opportunity to change someone's life, man, please just go out there and do it. It's not about what your title is, what your end game is. It's like, just, like Mr. Huffman, he probably was doing very well in life, probably never had struggles in his life, but he took time to listen. And he, not only did he listen, but he cared, and he always tried to come up with a resolution for me. And every time I left his office, even though I didn't go to class, or I went to class 30 minutes late, he always wrote me a note, and it was never, ever questioned, because he was who he was, And man, do I miss people like that in my life. I'm sure he has probably since passed away. I feel guilty now talking about him, knowing I couldn't be part of following him and later in life. That's my bad. I got to live with that, but that is my bad. But anyway, folks, so I think you guys understand the underlying message. Just reach out, help people. It can be at any level of education. Just sometimes you just got to put the brakes on everything. Just listen to the kids, listen to the youth. Then, just you don't always have to offer a solution. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen and help people. Thank you very much.